For almost a century, Pullman Porters provided the best in rail travel, service, and luxury. They helped build a black middle class, spread information and culture, and were strong supporters of the civil rights movement. At the end of the Civil War, industrialist and engineer George Pullman hired former slaves to work on his cars as porters.
So when Pullman was creating these, and he kind of created this whole empire of not only building the cars, but his whole town where the cars were built in Chicago and all the employees and everyone along the way. So when these cars were built, and especially like our car here, the Lake Mitchell in the 1920s, it was really the top of the line. So he wanted to make these top of the line cars that everyone, all these different railroads could use, and especially with the sleeper cars too. They were going to be the top models of comfort along the rails when you're traveling for long distances.
Being a porter is one of the best things that ever happened to me. I began working for the Pullman Company in 1942. I was 40 years old. The company taught us how to make down berths, clean restrooms, move bags, serve drinks, shine shoes, and more. It is a 16-hour day.
This avatar is part of the Pullman Porter exhibit at the National Railroad Museum in Green Bay. It is located in a fully restored Pullman Porter railroad car.
So in the front section here of the car, we have the 10 sections. So you have people sitting down, just their general transportation. And then what happens is these benches will move down. We also have berths that move down. So we have kind of these bunk beds. And then one of the things the porters would do is bring you a table too. So if you wanted a table, they have these movable tables that fit into slots. So you can have a table for easier comfort, or if you have a drink, or if you're reading or writing something. So the seats that we saw in the front, they would convert down, the cushions came off, and it's kind of like a camper, how you'd have those seats come and make a bench. There was another cushion then that would go on top. And then the porters from there would make the bed. And again, they would tuck all the sheets in, wrap the blankets around. All the Pullman cars had a specific Pullman blanket that just the passengers could use. The porters were not allowed to use these blankets. They would have to use something different.
It was $1,000 a year when I started, about half a conductor's salary. Tips filled in the gaps. You first got the troop trains, or the nickel plate run. You get less than a nickel in tips. When you have more seniority, you can bump other porters off the good-paying runs between the big cities, Chicago to New Orleans, Los Angeles, New York. Frank Sinatra will give you $100. Rockefeller, a dime.
It was still a better job than what you could get elsewhere. And then especially once they started moving into the unions, that really raised the quality as well.
You've heard of A. Philip Randolph, right? I have nothing but good to say about him. He did the impossible. He brought respect to the Negro man through wage, condition, and name. I never met the man in person, but a lot of other porters did. Randolph led our union, the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters, from 1925 onward. By the time I became a porter in 1942, he was a leader for our race. Randolph never was a porter, but he knew how to talk to them. He traveled from New York to St. Louis, Oakland, Atlanta, and Detroit, organizing union locals.
The Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters really wouldn't have existed without A. Philip Randolph. He, before the union existed, he was the co-editor of a labor rights magazine called The Messenger. And it was a very popular magazine with the Pullman Porters. And through reading this magazine, it gave the porters this sense of labor identity. And he was asked then to be the president of the union, even though he himself was not a porter. He was asked because he wasn't a porter, so his job wasn't at risk.
Randolph understood the link between economic equality and social freedom. In 1941, he threatened a march on Washington to oppose industry discrimination against black workers. Under that pressure, President Roosevelt signed Executive Order 8802, which banned such discrimination as the United States was gearing up for war.
And so he led the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters into the success that they found with the Pullman Company in establishing the union and getting recognized for the American Federation of Labor. and getting the stipulations and the bargaining power that they required in order to have the successful union that they had until the company disbanded in the 1960s, really.
These tracks gave birth to the blues. To the same old place. Sweet home Chicago.
Pullman Porters also contributed to bringing news and culture to new Black communities that had been formed in urban areas and other states after the Great Migration.
The Pullman Porters were really like the glue or the driving force behind spreading Black culture throughout America. It's no secret that a lot of popular music is based off of African slave music. And it is because of the Pullman Porters traveling across the country, visiting a lot of southern Jim Crow South towns, or the Black portions of those towns, and experiencing the culture within them, and then taking that and bringing it to wherever they were from, where their families were from.
Filmmaker Oscar Michaud, photographer Gordon Parks, and poet Claude McKay were all Pullman Porters, as were the fathers of Justice Thurgood Marshall, singer Dionne Warwick, and radio host Tom Joyner. The Porters contributed to the building of America's Black middle class and were instrumental in America's civil rights struggle. E.D. Nixon was a Pullman Porter, a union organizer and the head of the Montgomery chapter of the NAACP in 1955.
E.D. Nixon was a central figure in the Montgomery bus boycott, as of course was Rosa Parks, she was his secretary actually in Montgomery, and it was through her connections with E.D. Nixon and her position as a respected member of the community that she was chosen to be this like martyr figure in not giving up her position on her seat in the bus, which then of course sparked the bus boycott. And it was through E.D. Nixon's connections with being a Pullman Porter that he got the organizational know-how and resources in order to make the Montgomery bus boycott as successful as it was.
8 years later, Randolph would lead the Great March on Washington for jobs and freedom and economic equality.